I found out Marcus was sleeping with Jenna the same day she got my promotion. The promotion I'd been working toward for 2 years. The promotion he'd promised me just 3 weeks earlier while we were lying in bed in his downtown Chicago apartment, my head on his chest, talking about our future. I should have seen it coming. God, I should have seen it coming. But when you're 27 and you think you're in love with your boss, you convince yourself that the rules don't apply to you, that somehow your situation is different. Special, that he chose you because you're brilliant and beautiful and irreplaceable, not because you were convenient and naive and willing to keep your mouth shut. Marcus hired me straight out of Northwestern. I was this eager marketing graduate with student loans up to my eyeballs and stars in my eyes about working for a tech startup. Innovate Solutions wasn't huge, maybe 40 employees, but Marcus had this vision. He was 34, divorced, drove a Tesla, and had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room when he talked to you. The first 6 months were professional, completely professional. I worked my ass off on campaigns, stayed late, came in early. I wanted to prove myself. Marcus would stop by my desk sometimes, ask how I was settling in, compliment my work, normal boss stuff. But there was always this energy between us, this tension. The night everything changed was after our biggest client presentation. We'd landed a 6-figure contract, and Marcus suggested we celebrate, just the core team, he said. But somehow it ended up being just us at this wine bar in River North. You were incredible today, Hannah, he said, leaning across the small table. I knew you had it in you from day one. I felt my cheeks flush. Thank you. That means everything coming from you. You know, I don't usually mix business with pleasure, he said, his fingers brushing mine on the table. But there's something about you. I should have said no. I should have made some excuse and gone home to my studio apartment and my cat. Instead, I let him drive me to his place. Instead, I let him pour me another glass of wine and tell me how special I was, how different I was from anyone he'd ever worked with. When he kissed me that night, I thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. For 8 months, I lived in this bubble. We were careful at work, professional. But after hours, I was his girlfriend. We'd go to dinner at restaurants in neighborhoods where we wouldn't run into coworkers. He'd take me to his lake house in Wisconsin on weekends. I kept a drawer at his apartment. We have to be discreet, he'd always say. You understand, right? It's not about us. It's about protecting the company, protecting you. I understood. Of course I understood. I was young, but I wasn't stupid. I knew about HR policies and workplace relationships. I knew it could complicate things, so I played along. I smiled politely when he introduced me as his marketing coordinator at industry events. I bit my tongue when other employees made jokes about him being single and available. But in private, he made me feel like I was everything to him. You're going to run your own department someday, he'd whisper in the dark. I'm going to make sure you have everything you deserve. When the senior marketing manager position opened up in January, I thought it was finally my time. I'd been doing half the job already, covering for my boss who was basically checked out and coasting toward retirement. I knew every client, every campaign, every metric that mattered. Marcus and I talked about it over dinner at our usual place, this little Italian restaurant in Lincoln Park. The job is yours, he said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. I mean, we have to go through the motions, post it publicly, interview a few candidates, but it's yours, Hannah. You've earned it. I felt this rush of validation. Finally, my hard work was paying off. Finally, I was going to get the recognition I deserved, and it had nothing to do with sleeping with the boss. I was genuinely good at my job. That's what I told myself anyway. The interview started in February. Marcus assured me it was just a formality. We have to be fair, he said. But don't worry, I know who the best candidate is. Then Jenna walked into our office for her interview. Jenna was 29, blonde, with this confident smile and a resume that made my stomach drop. She'd worked for 2 major agencies in New York, had an MBA from Wharton, and spoke 3 languages. When Marcus introduced her to the team, I watched his face. I knew that look. I'd seen it before, directed at me. She's impressive, I said that night when we were at his place. I was trying to sound casual, but my voice came out tight. She's qualified, Marcus said, not looking up from his laptop. But you know the job is yours. Stop worrying. But I was worrying because Jenna wasn't just qualified. She was everything I wasn't: polished, sophisticated. She had the kind of confidence that comes from never having to prove yourself, never having to work twice as hard for half the recognition. And she was beautiful in this effortless way that made me suddenly aware of every flaw in my own appearance. The week after her interview, I noticed Marcus staying late more often. "Big project," he'd say when I asked. "You go ahead home, I'll catch up with you later." But he stopped catching up with me later. Our weekend trips to Wisconsin became less frequent. Our dinners out became takeout at his place, and then just me eating alone while he worked on his laptop. "Is everything okay?" I asked one night in March. We were in bed, but he felt a million miles away. "Just stressed about work," he said. "The promotion decision is harder than I thought it would be." My blood went cold. "Harder? I thought you said it was mine." "It is. It will be. I just have to make sure I'm making the right choice for the company." The right choice for the company, not the right choice for me, not the choice he'd already promised me. The right choice for the company. I started paying closer attention after that. I noticed how Marcus's face lit up when Jenna walked into meetings. I noticed how he laughed a little too hard at her jokes. I noticed how he found excuses to pull her into projects, to ask for her input, to praise her ideas in front of the whole team. I also noticed how he started finding fault with my work. Little things at first: a typo in an email, a slide that could be formatted better, a campaign idea that was good, but maybe not quite what we're looking for. "You seem distracted lately," he said, after a particularly brutal feedback session in April. "Is everything okay at home?" At home. Like we didn't share a bed 3 nights a week. Like he didn't know exactly what was going on in my life, because he was my life. "I'm fine," I said. "Just focused on getting this promotion." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Right, the promotion." I should have known then. I should have seen what was happening. But I was so deep in denial, so desperate to believe that what we had was real, that I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Jealous, insecure. The announcement came on a Thursday morning in late April. Marcus called an all-hands meeting for 10 a.m. I spent an hour getting ready that morning, picking out my best blazer, practicing my surprised but grateful face in the mirror. I was going to be gracious, professional. I wasn't going to let on that I'd known about the promotion for months. I was going to act like any other employee getting unexpected good news. Marcus stood at the front of the conference room, looking polished and confident in his navy suit. "I'm excited to announce that we've filled the senior marketing manager position," he said. "After a thorough interview process, we've selected someone who brings fresh perspective and innovative thinking to our team." My heart was pounding. This was it. This was my moment. Please join me in congratulating Jenna Morrison on her promotion. The room erupted in applause. I felt like I was underwater, like all the sound was muffled and distant. Jenna stood up, beaming, accepting handshakes and congratulations from our coworkers. I clapped. I actually clapped. Because what else do you do when your entire world collapses in front of 40 people? "Hannah, you okay?" my cubicle neighbor whispered. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I managed. "Just surprised." Surprised. That was the understatement of the century. After the meeting, I locked myself in the bathroom and threw up. Then I sat on the floor of the stall and tried to figure out what the hell had just happened. Had Marcus lied to me? Had he changed his mind? Had I done something wrong? I waited until everyone had gone to lunch, then knocked on his office door. "Come in," he called, not looking up from his computer. "Marcus, can we talk?" "Sure, what's up?" His tone was casual, friendly, like he was talking to any employee, like he hadn't just destroyed my career and broken my heart in the same 10-minute meeting. "What happened?" I asked. "With the promotion. You said it was mine." He finally looked at me, and his expression was almost annoyed. "Hannah, I said you were a strong candidate. I never guaranteed anything. You said the job was mine. You said I'd earned it. I said a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I had to make the best decision for the company. Jenna has more experience, better credentials. It wasn't personal." Wasn't personal. The man I'd been sleeping with for 8 months, the man who'd told me he loved me just 2 weeks earlier, was telling me that passing me over for a promotion wasn't personal. "So what about us?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What about us? Are we okay? Is this going to change things between us?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, and for a moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Guilt, maybe? or pity. Hannah, I think maybe we should take a step back. This whole situation is complicated. And with Jenna joining the team in a senior role, I think it's best if we keep things professional. Professional, after 8 months of telling me I was special, that what we had was worth the risk, that he'd never felt this way about anyone before. He wanted to keep things professional. Are you breaking up with me? I asked. I'm saying we should focus on work, both of us. I stood there for a long moment, waiting for him to take it back, waiting for him to remember that he loved me, that we had plans, that just last month he'd talked about me moving in with him, but he just turned back to his computer. I should get back to work, I said. Good idea. I walked out of his office in a daze. The rest of the day passed in a blur of emails and meetings and pretending everything was normal, pretending my heart wasn't shattered, pretending I wasn't questioning every moment of the past 8 months. That night, I went home to my studio apartment and cried until I had no tears left. Then I opened a bottle of wine and tried to figure out where I'd gone wrong. Had I not been good enough at my job? Had I been too clingy, too demanding? Had I misunderstood what we were to each other? I replayed every conversation, every promise, every moment of intimacy, looking for clues I'd missed, signs that he was losing interest, evidence that I'd been fooling myself all along. The next few weeks were torture. I had to watch Jenna settle into what should have been my office, taking meetings with what should have been my clients, making decisions about campaigns I'd developed. And I had to smile and be supportive and act like I was happy for her. Marcus barely acknowledged me anymore. When he did speak to me, it was purely professional, polite but distant, like I was just another employee he'd never given a second thought to. But I started noticing other things. The way he and Jenna would disappear for long lunches. The way they'd have hushed conversations by the coffee machine. The way she'd laugh at his jokes with the same breathless admiration I'd once shown. 3 weeks after the promotion announcement, I was working late, trying to catch up on a project that had been reassigned to me at the last minute. Most of the office was empty, but I could see light coming from Marcus's office. I was walking past his door to get to the printer when I heard voices. His voice, and Jenna's. "We have to be careful," Marcus was saying. "You understand, right? It's not about us. It's about protecting the company, protecting you." The exact same words he'd said to me 8 months earlier. I stood frozen in the hallway, listening to him use the same lines, the same promises, the same manipulation tactics that had worked so well on me. "I know," Jenna said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "I just can't believe this is happening. I never expected to feel this way about my boss." "You're different," Marcus said. "Special. I've never felt this way about anyone I work with." I wanted to laugh, or scream, or march into that office and tell Jenna exactly what kind of man she was getting involved with. Instead, I grabbed my things and left. That weekend, I did something I'd never done before. I called in sick on Monday and spent the day applying for jobs, real jobs, at companies where I wouldn't have to see Marcus's face every day or pretend that my heart wasn't broken. I got 3 interviews that week. By Friday, I had 2 job offers. The better offer was from a marketing firm downtown. Better salary, better benefits, better title. It was everything I'd been working toward, everything Marcus had promised me at Innovate Solutions. I typed up my resignation letter that night. 2 weeks' notice, professional and polite. I didn't mention Marcus. I didn't mention the promotion. I just said I'd found a better opportunity. When I handed it to him Tuesday morning, he actually looked surprised. "Hannah, what's this about? If this is about the promotion, we can talk about other opportunities here." "It's not about the promotion," I said. "It's about me realizing I deserve better." "Better than what?" I looked at him sitting behind his desk. This man who'd made me feel like I was everything and nothing all at once. This man who'd used his position of power to manipulate me. Who'd made promises he never intended to keep. Who'd thrown me away the moment someone more impressive came along. "Better than this," I said. "Better than you." For the first time in months, I saw something real in his expression. Not the polished professional mask he'd been wearing. Something that looked almost like regret. "Hannah, I never meant for things to get complicated." "No," I said. "You meant for them to be simple. You meant for me to be grateful for whatever scraps of attention you threw my way. You meant for me to keep my mouth shut and not ask for too much, and definitely not expect you to keep your promises." "That's not fair." "Fair," I laughed. and it came out bitter. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been not sleeping with your employee. Fair would have been not making promises you couldn't keep. Fair would have been giving me the promotion I earned instead of giving it to the woman you wanted to sleep with next. His face went pale. That's not what happened. Isn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you have a type. Young, ambitious women who are desperate to prove themselves. Women who'll believe you when you tell them they're special. Women who'll keep your secrets and warm your bed and not complain when you decide they're not worth the trouble anymore. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Marcus, you might want to come up with some new lines. The whole "you're different, I've never felt this way before" speech is getting a little stale. I walked out of his office and didn't look back. My last day was a Friday in May. Jenna threw me a goodbye party in the conference room. She was sweet about it, genuinely nice, and I almost felt sorry for her. She had no idea what she was getting herself into. "I'm really going to miss working with you," she said, as people were cleaning up. "You've been so helpful with the transition." "Just remember," I said, "you earned this position. Don't let anyone make you feel like you didn't." She looked confused, but I didn't explain. Marcus didn't come to the party. He was in meetings all day, but as I was packing up my desk, he appeared beside me. "I want you to know," he said quietly, "that you're incredibly talented. Any company would be lucky to have you." I looked up at him, this man who'd had such power over my life for so long, and I realized that the power was gone. He was just a guy, a mediocre guy, who used his position to take advantage of women who trusted him. "I know," I said. "I finally figured that out." 6 months later, I was thriving at my new job. I'd been promoted to senior account manager, I was working with amazing clients, and I was dating a guy from outside the office who treated me like an equal, not a secret. I heard through the gossip vine that Marcus and Jenna were still together. They were the power couple of Innovate Solutions, and I couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction knowing that I had escaped that toxic cycle. One afternoon, I was having lunch with a coworker when I saw them at a nearby table. They were laughing, leaning into each other, and for a moment, I felt that familiar pang of jealousy. But then I remembered the pain, the betrayal, and the way he had made me feel small. "Are you okay?" my coworker asked, noticing my distraction. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about how far I've come." "Good for you," she said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. As I watched Marcus and Jenna, I realized that I didn't want what they had. I didn't want to be part of a relationship built on manipulation and deceit. I wanted something real, something honest. That night, I went home and pulled out my journal. I hadn't written in it since I left Innovate Solutions, but I felt the urge to document my journey. I wrote about the pain of betrayal, the struggle to reclaim my self-worth, and the joy of finding a new path. I wrote about the lessons I had learned, that love shouldn't come with conditions, that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's approval, and that I deserved to be treated with respect. As I closed the journal, I felt a sense of closure. I had finally let go of the hurt and resentment. I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it held. A year later, I was sitting in a coffee shop, working on a project for my new job, when I received a message from an old friend. "Did you hear about Marcus and Jenna?" I hesitated before opening the link. The headline read, "Innovate Solutions, CEO resigns amid scandal." I clicked through the article, my heart racing. It detailed how Marcus had been accused of inappropriate conduct with multiple employees, including Jenna. The company was in turmoil, and he was stepping down to avoid further damage. I felt a mix of emotions, relief, vindication, and a strange sense of closure. I had escaped that world just in time. As I sipped my coffee, I thought about how far I had come. I had rebuilt my life, found my voice, and learned to stand up for myself. I was no longer the girl who had let a man dictate her worth. I was stronger now, and I was ready for whatever came next.